I hope you're having a great day. This is Resilience Talk with Brad Neufeld. We're going to talk about something really cool this evening, which I'm very happy to start this with. I'm still down in Miami, Florida. If you can see all the trees back there, again, I like to give you everybody when they see palm trees, they know you're in a tropical climate. So there I am. And if you see an occasional jogger behind me or something, that's just because that's what's going on here, where I'm at here. I'm in a little park area by my daughter's apartment. So anyway, a lot of fun. Well, let's get into it, guys. I know I talk about this a lot. Oh, Connie is with us right now, and so she'll be chirping in every now and then when she feels like she needs to get me back on track here.
We're here and
Is that?
happy.
Yep, there you go. There you go. All right, so this is something that I mention a lot on here. We talk about because again, these are the comments that I get from people. I'm going to ask people to put these things in the comments so everybody can enjoy the questions and things like that when you have a question. Because I love you texting me and I love you calling me. Please continue to do that. I'm not saying don't. But yeah, I think it's best if we can do them in the chat room. That way everybody can see what the questions are, and then we can discuss them here on the lives. I get this from several people. Brad, you keep talking about your finding your talent and your skill and what your mission is in life. You got to discover that, because the way that I put it, and I really do mean this. And there's a show coming up in the next couple of weeks here. I had originally said we're going to do it starting in June, but we're going to answer this question. There's a lot going on in our world right now, guys, and there's some big things that are about to happen. And it's not who wins the election, I'll just tell you that. But I feel driven to make you aware of these things. But I use this statement all the time that nobody is coming to save us. There's not going to be one person, one human out there that's going to step in and be able to right all the wrongs that are going on right now. There might be some people there who can stall it for a little while, but things are happening rapidly to in a downturn. And again, the last thing I want to do is scare anybody. I don't work that way. I want to be inspirational, and I want to tell you that there's good news on the other side of this this tunnel here. Because as I've said on many of my broadcasts, that it feels like things are falling apart, but I think things are just falling together. But there's also some signs out there that you need to look for that I'm going to make you aware of. And why is it that I keep saying that nobody's going to come here to save us? Well, if that's the case, then what can save us? And I'm just going to tell you this. I feel like I've been given some direction to let everybody know, and I'm just going to call it a path. There's a path to turning these things around, but this may sound simple, but again, it's not easy. What I'm being prompted to tell you is that we are to start working together again, start serving one another, start discovering, and it's going to take us serving each other at a lot higher level than what we've been doing up till now. There's a lot of discouragement out there. There's a lot of forces out there that are trying to divide us as human beings when we have so much in common, regardless of our race, regardless of our upbringing. There's so much we can do for each other. But this is the key point here after all that gibberish. You have talents and skills that the world needs. I know you've said that. I know you've heard that before. But guess what? It's time. It's time. There's no more waiting around. It's time to dig deep inside and find out what those things are and get on your life mission and your life purpose, because that is what the world needs. It needs you at the top of your game, whatever that talent or skill is. And it really doesn't matter what it is, guys. Your talent and skill is needed and wanted. It can change your life, it can change your family's life, and it can change your community's life. Because again, when everything falls apart, we're really going to need to come together and work together to get this thing back on track here. So how do you do that? How do we I've written some notes down here. I want to share a little bit of my story, how I discovered my purpose. And it was kind of a weird deal, because when I was born a little snot-nosed kid, in California, and I didn't know where. I was just like anybody else, any other kid that age, just trying to figure out what to do, where to go, and who to talk to, who to be friends with. Well, I was finding out that I didn't really fit in anywhere with anybody, but yet I tried my darndest to do that. Well, then one day when I was a very young age, my my family ran into some really difficult financial challenges, and we literally lost everything. We lost our home, we lost uh, our livelihood, and so we had to move for a while, and we picked up and left. And I know part of some of you have heard this, but we moved to a little town in Alabama where we lived with some friends of our family. And the friends down there, the Crabtrees, love them to death. We They took us in, and we helped them on their 4,000-acre soybean farm. They had a farm, they had a logging operation, and so this is the environment that I was raised in. I was having to support myself at a very young age. They allowed me to work there on the farm. Just to tell you how long ago that was, I think minimum wage at the time was $2.50 or $2.85 an hour. But I only made $1.85 an hour because that's what they were paying back then. And you don't have to pay minimum wage if you work on a farm. But I worked a lot of hours down there, and I had to support myself. At a very young age, was paying on a house trailer, making payments on a car. Well, then when I got to be a little bit older, just before my 16th birthday, we finally got our legs under us as a family, and we moved to Utah, where I reside now. And in Utah, my dad worked there for a little while, and the job that he actually moved up there for, the company went belly up, and so he had to end up going back to California, and I did not want to go back to California for various reasons, of which I'll talk to you about personally some other time. But I just didn't want to go back there. So here I am in Utah, single kid. I was 17 years old, 16, 17 years old, paying for, my dad was helping me out with the rent for a little while until I got a little bit older and could afford to pay for it myself. But I had to pay my own rent and everything. And well, this caused me to, for lack of a better term, grow up a little quicker than I wanted to. Connie, if that's a good way to put it, I just had to, I had to grow up because
you're
yeah,
forced out of your childhood, really. You just
yeah,
had to buck up and do what you had to do. So
yeah. And I started, good, bad, or indifferent, I started learning a lot about people at that young age, because these people who were my quote unquote friends, sorry, I'm holding my iPad, or I could do the air quotes, my quote unquote friends who want, oh, here's Brad, a single young kid with his own apartment. Well, guess what? I was one of the most popular guys in the school. But guess what? I figured out very quickly, especially when they would come over and they would empty out all my cupboards and wouldn't give me any money to pay for food. And all they wanted to do was bring more friends over and other things that I did not want to do, such as the drinking and the partying and all that. That was just not something that was in my DNA. And so I realized very quickly that when I said no to not letting my friends come over, they weren't my friends anymore. Did they want to be friends with me, or did they just want my apartment? Well, that's a hard lesson to learn at age 16. I'll tell you that right now. Well, I went on, struggled. I ended up graduating from high school. After high school, college wasn't even an issue or a thing that I wanted to do, because I was just struggling in high school. It was all I could do to get through and graduate. So I was working for a food company where I was making a lot of money. Well, then later on, because I was raking in the dough, I ended up serving a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints over in Japan. But then when I got home, I immediately went to work, just putting together a career that I wanted to do. Well, I couldn't figure it out because I was still, as I tell everybody, I'm a farm boy. I still am at heart. I love the hard work of working on a farm, but that just wasn't an option. There was no money to buy a farm. So I was like, gosh, what am I going to do? I was hearing all these things that I'm teaching you right now back then. Well, pick what you want to do and just do it. Grab a career. What is it that you want to do? Well, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was struggling in reading. I thought, well, construction. But then here was another thing at the young age that I was at, they wouldn't hire me unless I was 21 or older. So therefore, even though I had been driving all this big equipment, bulldozers, you name it, bulldozers, backhoes, I was operating all of those on a farm, didn't matter. I was too young, so I couldn't get a job there. So again, very frustrating. So had to do all of the fast food jobs like most young people do. But I did what I had to do to make money. I even remember repairing small motors and sharpening saw blades for a gentleman in my neighborhood, just whatever to make money. Well, then after a while, after I got married and was doing good then with that food company that I told you about, where I was making a lot of money. Well, I was asked to volunteer at a youth center, and at the time it was called Utah Boys Ranch. It's a different name now, but at the time, one of the gentlemen in my area there asked me if I could come and work with the boys, meaning just come there, talk to them, and throw the football and all that. And I just thought, well, I like football, so why not? I'll just go out there and hang around with them. And so I did that. But then after a while, after they started to get to know me a little better and asking me about my upbringing, and I was telling them all the stuff I did and all the hours I had to work and all the hunting I did and how we, you know, kill our own food all the time. And I literally was into the farming life. Well, after a while, because again, they would just ask me questions. What would you do in this situation? What would you do in that situation? Did you have friends? Did you do stuff? And I would just answer their questions. No big deal, right? Until one day, one of their therapists came to me just out of the blue and said, "Hey, Brad, are you Brad Neufeld?" And I says, "Yes, I am." And he said, "You need to stop talking to these boys." Okay. That made absolutely no sense. I said, "Why is that?" He goes, "Well, you're screwing up their treatment plans." And that's the first time I'd ever heard that term, treatment plan. And so I was like, "What is a treatment plan?" I had to go look it up to see what it was. And I went, "Oh, okay. Obviously they're there for therapeutic reasons, and yeah, they've got a track they're on and all this." I guess I didn't know what it was I was doing. I asked the therapist, and he said, "Just stop talking to them. That's all I'm going to say." And so, well, after going back there a few more times, the boys started saying, "Hey, why aren't you talking to me, Brad? This isn't right. You've always talked to me. Now you're not." And it was getting uncomfortable, so I just started just telling them, "Well, here's what happened," and they told me I couldn't talk to you anymore. And of course, one of them said, "Well, I hate my therapist. I don't want to talk to him, and I feel more comfortable talking to you." And I was like, "Well, you still need to go back and talk to your therapist, and that's why you're here. Or you're not going to progress unless you go talk to them and do what they say. I'll try not to mess up your treatment plan." Then I had a second therapist come and tell me the same thing and told me he was going to turn me into the state of Utah for practicing therapy without a license. And I'm like, "Okay, I don't have any idea what it is that I'm doing, any clue, because it's not like I'm diagnosing them or anything like that, or I'm not telling them don't do that. I tell them, hey, just do what your therapist says." That's what I'd always say. But it seemed like I had a knack for convincing them to do what their therapist said. So one night I was at home just laying in my bed, and all of a sudden, click, something clicked in my head. Okay, maybe all of this stuff that I went through when I was younger, maybe it was for a reason. Maybe it happened for a bigger purpose, one that I can't see right now. So I immediately got on my knees and started asking God, "Is this what I'm supposed to do?" And he said, "Yes." So I was like, "Okay." So I started studying uh, social work, started going to college and started learning classes and got into it. First started out as a line staff at several of the residential treatment centers in Utah, all the way from southern Utah all the way up into the north here. And it just seemed to click. And I was like, you know what? I think I've discovered my life path. But it wasn't something that I had any way of planning. I thought my life path again was, or my mission was this thing with the farming. But come to find out, no. Uh, but then this caused me to really start doing a deep dive psychologically into, okay, why is it that I love this and I love farming? What do those two have in common? Well, on the surface, you'd probably say nothing, right? Because farming, what was it? A lot of 18-hour, 19-hour days, not a lot of sleep because you had to get the crops in and you had to cultivate them all summer long, and then you had to, at the end of the crop season, you had to take the cultivators out there and cut them all and process the seed and get it out there. I mean, just a lot of work. But yet, what was so satisfying about it, and why am I so satisfied with the social work and what I'm doing? Well, that caused me again to do the deep dive and start to go, okay, what are my, and I call them drivers. What are my drivers? What is driving me to do what I like to do here? Well, my drivers were, guess what? I like to accomplish things. I like to take on tasks. In a farming context, the task is I'm looking at a field full of weeds. Okay? And people are telling me, you can't plant anything there. It's not going to happen. Okay? If you plant anything there, it's just all going to die. There's too many weeds. Those weeds are just going to suck it all down. You're just going to be wasting your time. And I would go, I'll show you. So guess what? I'd plow up that field, get rid of all those weeds, put down some weed killer, of course, and then we'd plant those seeds. We'd nurture them all summer long. And next thing you know, we've got a record crop at the end of the year. And it's so satisfying to take that impossible situation, or at least that's what everybody was saying, and turn it into something that made a difference. Okay? Feeding the people of the world. Well, what was I doing in social work? Same thing. I would run into situations that would just seem impossible. Here's somebody, they're depressed, a young man or woman that I'd run into, or I'd be sent to, but here they are, they're depressed. They've got parents who maybe aren't taking care of them the way that they are. Everything's in disarray. They all hate each other, and it just feels like a hopeless situation. But because of my drive that I had, it caused me to stop and say, okay, there's got to be a solution here. So here comes the positive mental attitude. Everybody's telling me this can't be fixed. But I think, no, it can be fixed because I've seen it before. I've seen it in my own life. I've had to struggle to keep relationships. I've had to struggle with sibling relationships just like everybody else. And I thought, okay, how can I use the things that God has taught me to be able to help in these situations? And I went on to have a 30-plus year career doing that. But the driver, getting back to that, the driver was the same. It was, I wanted to accomplish things. I just had a knack for taking impossible situations and turning them around and making everything good. So do you see the difference there? Yeah, that's what it was. Because see, it didn't really matter what I did. It could have been something other than social work. That's just what happened to cross my path. Because like I like to share this here, Michael Jordan was not born a great basketball player. Okay, no, he wasn't. Matter of fact, when he was in high school, you can read this. He actually got cut from his sophomore season. He didn't even make his freshman team, and he even got cut during the sophomore years of his high school. But guess what? He dug deep inside because he was sick and tired. This is what I read in one of his books and I heard in one of his speeches. He got sick and tired of being told, hey, because of the color of your skin, this is where you're going to be stuck. You're not going anywhere. So he chose basketball as his means to get out. That was his driver. He wanted to prove to the world that he didn't have to sit here and just be like everybody told him he had to be. He wanted to be able to get out and be successful. So that's what he did. But he chose basketball as his medium. Because I like to share this too. If you go back and look at all of his stats, why is he the greatest of all time? People call him that. I happen to think he is. Definitely way up there in the top one or two for sure. But then all of these, is if you look at Kobe Bryant's stats, his stats were better than Michael Jordan. So why wasn't he up there in that echelon? It was something about Michael and his attitude and that drive that he had and the swagger he had, just the and again, this is all my opinion, obviously, but he used basketball as a medium, as a means rather, of achieving the driving goal that he had. So let's start with that. Well, now, how do you discover this driver? And this is the assignment I'm going to give you, and we're going to hammer on this a little bit more tomorrow night. And I'm going to take it to even another level here, okay? So what I'd like you to do is take the night here and get a pad of paper out, get your notepad out, or if you want to put it in on your computer, go right ahead and do it. But ask yourself the question, what is my driver? And also ask the question, what is my mission? What are my talents? Go ahead and write all those questions down and let your brain start working on it. And if you come back and you're still not quite sure what that's going to be, it's okay. Here's what I suggest you do. First of all, you start with something that you love, something you're passionate about. Let go of all of those thoughts that you may have of, well, I could never do this. I've tried this 300 times. It's never worked, and it's never going to work. Just let go of all of that. Start with what you love. Okay? And if that's not enough, if it's still not coming to you, then ask the question, what would my God or my Maker have me do? My higher power. What would they want from me? Whatever thoughts come up, write them down. Again, if you have negative thoughts coming out saying, well, you'll never be able to do that, knock those off. Just don't even pay attention to those. Write the thing down. Okay? Write it down. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit more tomorrow on what to do from that point on. All right. But until you find that thing, until you find the desire that you have, the dream or that thing that's inside of you, it's going to be very challenging for you to find it. You're not going to find it under a rock. You're only going to find it by looking deep inside. So anyway, Connie, I went on a lot longer than I normally do, but I just wanted to get that out there. How's
No worries.
baby doing?
It's all pretty good. She's good. Getting some puffs for now. But
All
I
right.
had one quote that kind of went along with what you were saying about how we need to, work together and everything like that. So tell me what your thoughts are on this one.
Okay.
It says, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. What are your thoughts on that one?
No, that's perfect because that goes along with our theme that we discuss all the time, Connie, of people need people.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we touched on that. I think we touched on that with one of the thing with the big lies. Go back to the one that says, "Are you which the four big lies? Which ones are you falling for?" And that's one of them is that you can do things by yourself and be successful. Nope.
Nope.
You need help because there's too many people wanting to be isolated. Too many people going into their own little cocoons and thinking, because I've talked with people on many occasions where they'll tell me that, where they'll say, Brad, nobody believes in me. Nobody will support me. There's just no way I can do this. So therefore, I'm just going to try to do it all myself. And I just have to have this nice heart-to-heart, hard talk with them. It's not going to happen. You know why I know? Ask me why I know.
You've
Go
done
ahead.
it.
Because I've done it. I spent a lot of time trying to figure it out myself, only to find out, guess what? I need people in my life. Okay, the best thing you can do is decide what it is you want and put it out there to the world. Tell everybody that's in your world the thing that you want to do. Are they going to laugh at you? Yeah, some will. Just going to shoot straight with you. Are there people that are going to say you can't do that? Yeah. But what you do when they do that is pause for a minute, and then because there's a need for that resistance there. Because I know we've had podcasts on challenges as well and why they're beautiful thing. That resistance is part of the development process. It is required to be there. But first and foremost, why it's there is to get you to see if this is something that you really want to do. Because your higher power knows if you're not doing what you love, you're not going to be fully content. You're not going to be fully at peace. Okay? And so what your higher power is trying to tell you is saying, all right, take a minute, breathe. Yes, you're getting all this resistance, but ask yourself, is this something you still really want to do? And if you don't quit because of them, but if your heart still says yes, then you keep going. But there will be times where your heart will say, no, this isn't it. You haven't failed, folks, friends, neighbors, whatever. You guys out there listening to me. You haven't failed in that moment. Far from it. All you've done is discover something that doesn't work for you. That's it. That's it. Then you go to thing number 2. All right, what was number 2 on my list? And you just keep going until it starts to resonate. Okay. And I've even seen people leave their initial goal for a while, only to come back to it later with a new perspective and go, okay, I see why I wasn't able to do it before, because it took me a little while, some time away from it, for me to figure out that I really do like this, and here's why. So does that help, Connie? Where'd she go? She's still there. But anyway, hopefully that answers your question, and hopefully the people out there will understand that. But if you have any questions, again, please leave us a comment down in the bottom. Let us know what you think of this, and I'll put some show notes in here. We just didn't have time to put them in tonight, but I'll put some notes in here to go along with the steps that I have here that I've talked to you about tonight. But guys, it's time. No more sitting on the back burner. It's time to get up off your keister and go to work. Discover your talents. What are they? It's time to bring them out. No more waiting. We don't have any more time, guys. It's the time is coming where we need to get together and work together to make some good things happen, to save ourselves, our families, and in many cases, our communities. All right, guys, I'm going to be back here tomorrow, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, the process after you decide what it is that you want, what are the steps you need to take, and we'll discuss that. But all right, everybody, love you to death. I'm grateful again, texting, or we're doing this live remotely. This is so cool, all this cool technology here. But I'm here with all these fun things going on here in Miami, Florida. But guys, I'll see you tomorrow. We'll be back for another great show. We'll see you.